How's it going, everybody? My name is LuckyBunz. In today's video, we're going to be going over everything you need to know for the Road to Unova Tour event in Pokémon GO. With that being said, let's jump straight into it. So first of all, this event is going to be taking place from February 24th to March 1st, from 10 AM to 10 AM local time. The bonuses are going to be as follows. We're going to get 1/2 incubator distance, the remote raid pass limit is going to be increased to 20 per day until the 28th, and then on March 1st and March 2nd, there's not going to be any limit on remote raid passes. Now it is worth mentioning though that the price of these remote raid passes is not going to be discounted during this event, but it is going to be more convenient for players out there who live in smaller communities or just prefer to remote raid. If you are going to remote raid during this event, I would strongly recommend using something like PokeGenie to find reliable lobbies. Now following that, we're going to have a free timed research awarding legendary Pokemon, and based on previous lead up events, these tasks are going to be raid based, which means you will need to complete a certain amount of raids in order to actually get these free encounters. The good news though is that you already get 2 free orange passes to use every single day right now thanks to the seasonal bonus, and I don't believe these raid tasks are locked behind 5-star raids specifically, so keeping that in mind, this is probably one of the easiest ways to secure legendary Pokemon in the game, but unfortunately Zekrom and Reshiram are not going to be included in this timed research. Putting those two aside though, you're going to get encounters with Genesect, Virizion, Cobalion, Terrakion, Tornadus, Thundurus, and Landorus. Now these following Pokemon are also not going to be eligible for their special backgrounds from the timed research specifically. You can still get the special backgrounds from doing these in regular raid battles, but from the timed research, these are still going to have their exclusive legacy moveset, which in my opinion is a lot more worth it. If I'm being completely honest here, I don't really think that many players care about the special backgrounds. I mean, it's just a cosmetic thing, right? It's not that big of a deal. On top of that, it's also worth mentioning that these encounters are going to be at level 15, which means that some of the Pokemon will be Great League eligible. For example, if you mirror trade your Thundurus with somebody, you can get it below 1500 CP if the IVs roll low enough. Now these Pokemon are often very valuable to PvP players due to their rarity and just because you can only catch Pokemon at level 20 from raid battles, this is a big deal. So even if you don't plan to use this yourself in PvP, I would strongly recommend holding onto these for the future for any potential trades. I think Thundurus is the only one eligible, but I could be wrong about that. Moving on though, let's take a look at the wild encounters featured for this event. Basically, we're just going to have the Unova starters in their first stage and second stage form, so Snivy, Oshawott, and Tepig. Now I do want to warn you guys because this is a noob trap. Do not waste your Ultra Balls or your Golden Raspberries. Save those resources for the upcoming weekend. You're going to definitely need them more during that event rather than during this Road to Unova Tour event. We do also have some Pokemon in field research. We are going to have the Unova starters once again, and if you actually get the Unova starters, don't catch them. Actually stack your research, so basically just run away from the encounter. This can stack up to 100 times. During the Unova Tour event, or during like a calm day for example, you can then go and redeem this stack of encounters when we have like 3 times catch Stardust or 3 times catch experience. That's a much better time to redeem these. Now following that, we also have access to Roggenrola, Timber, Carablast, and Shelmet. We just recently had a calm day for the last 2, so it doesn't make too much sense to focus on these that much. Again, just stack all these Pokemon in your field research stack and you should be good to go. And once again, you want to have as much storage as possible going into the event over the weekend. Honestly, keeping all these Pokemon for trade evos isn't exactly a good idea right now. We're also going to have special 2km eggs, although I wouldn't really recommend hatching these during this event. You're going to have access to Roggenrola, Timber, Carablast, Shelmet, and Larvesta. Again, it just doesn't make much sense. Save your incubators for the event over the weekend when we actually have these special 10km eggs with the regional Pokemon that can be shiny. That's going to be the main hunt to go for, not these 2km eggs. So basically, in short, the wild encounters, the field research, and the special 2km eggs really aren't worth paying attention to during this Road to Unova Tour event. The main thing to focus on are going to be the legendary Pokemon, which we're about to talk about. So this raid boss rotation is going to be taking place from the 24th to the 28th. Now for every Pokemon I'm about to mention, there's also going to be a dedicated raid hour taking place between 6 to 7 PM local time on their featured raid days. So with that being said, the first Pokemon available is going to be on the 24th, and that's going to be Genesect in all of its drive forms, as it's like 5 different versions, I guess technically 4 different drive forms, and then the normal version. Genesect is also going to have the legacy moveset Techno Blast, and this move is going to vary depending on the drive of Genesect. For example, a Burn drive Genesect is going to have the Fire variant of Techno Blast, a Douse drive is going to have the Water version, Chill is going to be Ice, and then finally Shock is going to be Electric. Now for those of you who don't know, Genesect is also considered a mythical Pokemon, which means you won't be able to trade it with anybody. So this also means it's the only way to get the shiny form in Pokemon GO. It's also a decent bug type attacker if you wanted to build it for the raid raid/gym meta, although I really wouldn't recommend it. Bug types are honestly underutilized in Pokemon Go for the most part, with the exception of like Hoopa being double weak to bug. There's almost no other Pokemon in the game that actually have that double weakness. Now in terms of PvP, Genesect actually has the most relevant in the Open Ultra League right now with its Chill Drive specifically. That's going to be the Ice type variant. Now with that being said, I'm not sure if you can actually target or specifically target the Genesect with their different drive forms. We've never actually had them all featured at once, and so I don't know if it actually tells you that it's going to be a different drive when you actually go to the raid encounter. It might, I just don't remember it being that way. If somebody can verify down below, that'd be much appreciated. The Swords of Justice are going to be appearing next on February 25th. This is going to include Virizion, Terrakion, and Cobalion, all with their exclusive legacy moveset Sacred Sword. In terms of meta relevance here, Virizion has really strong play in the Open Ultra League, currently ranking in the top 50 right now. Ideally, if you want to actually run this in PvP though, you want to mirror trade this with somebody else to roll a better IV spread before you actually build it. Like, this is very, very important, guys. If you're going to be spending all those resources to build a PvP legendary, you definitely want to make sure it has the best IVs possible. That being said though, Cobalion is going to be even better than Virizion in the Open Ultra League, ranking at number 11 currently. This has been in the top of the meta for a long time, so if I had to recommend anything for PvP, Cobalion is your guy. Now Terrakion, on the other hand, this is going to be the only one of the three that isn't meta relevant in PvP, but that's because it's super meta relevant for the fighting type category in the raid/gym meta. It's currently the best non-mega option in the game right now, even beating out Shadow Conkeldurr, so that's honestly amazing. Now depending on what you want to focus on, I think all three of these are definitely going to be worth hunting on the 25th, so if you have the raid passes, definitely make sure to prioritize this day. Next up, the Forces of Nature are going to be appearing on February 26th. This is going to include Tornadus, Thundurus, and Landorus, all in their Therian forms. Tornadus is going to have access to its legacy moveset Bleak Wind Storm, Thundurus is going to have access to its legacy moveset Wild Bolt Storm, and finally Landorus is going to have access to its legacy moveset Sandsear Storm. The weakest of these three is going to be Tornadus, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be a bad Pokemon. It's actually slightly worse than a regular Moltres with Sky Attack, and given that you can get the legacy moveset during this event, it's still going to be a good option to go for. Although, if you have access to Pokemon like Rayquaza with Dragon Ascent or even Shadow Moltres with Sky Attack, you may not want to invest resources into this Pokemon. It's also not relevant in PvP, so there is that. Now, Thundurus, on the other hand, is going to be one of the best Electro-type attackers in the game with Wild Bolt Storm. This moveset is incredibly important for closing the gap between Zekrom, so I strongly recommend focusing on this if you can. Finally, we're going to have Landorus, which is going to be the best non-mega, non-Shadow Ground type attacker in the game with Sandsear Storm, but more than that, it is currently ranked at number 12 right now in the Open Master League. So from the three Forces of Nature, this should definitely be your top priority if you value both raids as well as PvP. Personally speaking, both Thundurus and Landorus are going to be high on my list to raid during this event. Next up, we're going to have Reshiram available to hunt on the 27th with the legacy moveset Fusion Flare. This Pokemon is also going to be available over the weekend during the global event. It goes without saying though, this Pokemon is going to be extremely important. Not only is it the best non-mega, non-shadow fire type attacker in the game, it's miles above its competition. You can also use it as a dragon type attacker if you would like to, since it has access to Dragon Breath and Draco Meteor, and it's also relevant in the Open Master League, currently ranking at number 16 right now. So super good Pokemon in pretty much every situation. You're also going to want to have at least one Reshiram to fuse together with your Kyurem during this event in order to get yourself a white Kyurem. The IVs on Reshiram aren't going to matter for this though, since the IVs are going to be based on Kyurem. Now finally, on the 28th, we're going to have access to Zekrom with the legacy moveset Fusion Bolt. It is currently the best non-shadow electro-type attacker in the game, and is also ranked at number 11 right now in the Open Master League, so slightly better than Reshiram. Now Fusion Bolt isn't nearly as important as some of the other movesets that we have mentioned, because Zekrom also has access to Wild Charge. Wild Charge is actually preferred to use in the Open Master League, which is even crazier. Now with that said, I wouldn't go removing Fusion Bolt on your Zekrom, especially if you do plan to use it in raid battles. You can also still play this in the Master League with Fusion Bolt as a nuke option with no self-debuff, unlike Wild Charge. So it's a different playability style, and I think that's perfectly fine. That's not going to be like a make it or break it for this Pokemon. And just like Reshiram, you want to have at least one Zekrom to fuse together with your Kyurem over the weekend in order to get yourself a black Kyurem. Once again, the IVs don't really matter on Zekrom for this. Now during the Unova Tour event, as well as over the weekend for the Unova Tour Global event, we're going to have special backgrounds for these legendary Pokemon, or at least like the chance to get them with their special backgrounds. Most of these Pokemon will have access to both the black and the white backgrounds, but for Tornadus and Reshiram, you can only catch these with the black background, and similarly, Thundurus and Zekrom can only be caught with the white background. I'm pretty sure this is a nod to the main series games due to the version exclusives. Keep in mind, if you actually want to get these special backgrounds on your white Kyurem and black Kyurem, you have to fuse together a Reshiram with the black background with a Kyurem that has the white background, and then basically the opposite for Zekrom. It's really important that you guys know this, because if you fuse together the same background, it's not going to get that special combination background. Now finally, to wrap things up for this video, let's go over the Road to Unova tickets, which are going to be $5 each. You can purchase these tickets anytime between February 24th to March 2nd at 6 p.m. local time. Keep in mind, for the timed research, you have to complete these by 8 p.m. on March 2nd or they will expire and you're going to lose your rewards. So first of all, we have the raid ticket. From this, you're going to get the bonus of 1 extra orange pass every single day for a total of 3 to use. Now on top of the regular rewards, you're also going to get 5,000 more experience from raids, 1 additional candy, 1 additional extra large candy, and 2 times Stardust. So do I think the raid ticket is worth purchasing? Yes, I definitely do. Like, if you were going to raid a lot during this week, I do think the raid ticket is going to give you a lot better value. That said though, Pokemon Go might be under new ownership, as we've recently seen, and so maybe you might not want to actually get the raid ticket because, you know, it could be super paywalled soon. We really have no idea. But yes, I am very well aware that Niantic could be selling the game to a company in Saudi Arabia, which, you know, is known for their monetization practices. They're very extreme monetization practices. So even though I do think this ticket is worth it at the time of making this video, after that news has actually been announced, or at least the speculation of it, I think, you know, if you want to be more conservative during this event, I do understand that approach moving forward. Now we do also have the egg hatch ticket, which, you know, typically I wouldn't really recommend. For these bonuses, you're going to get 2 times hatch experience, 2 times hatch candy, and then of course 2 times hatch Stardust. You're also going to get the free bonus of 1/2 incubator distance, so all around pretty good hatch bonuses. Again though, you know, if you don't want to get this ticket, that's totally understandable. From the timed research, you're going to get encounters with Maractus, Sigilif, and Bouffalant. And yeah, you know, unless you're going to be hatching a bunch of eggs, I don't see this ticket being worth it. I mean, it's just extra hatch stuff, and even during this Road to Unova Tour event, we only have access to the special 2-kilometer eggs. We don't even have access to the special 10-kilometer eggs, which I think was a huge missed opportunity. So yeah, raid ticket worth it, hatch ticket not so much. I haven't spent any money on Pokecoins in this game. I don't plan on spending any money in the future either, and the only events that I've actually gone to are the in-person ones. Everything else, I've been gifted tickets, which has always been nice, but, you know, this is definitely concerning for the future. I don't think I'm going to make a separate video, at least not on the main channel. I might make a separate video on my Clips channel just to kind of rant about this. Honestly, the news came at a really bad time, and I'll have to just kind of go back and look at this stuff in the coming days after the Unova Tour. Right now, I just want to focus on this event. You know, it could be the last big event that we actually have in Pokemon Go before it gets completely paywalled. And I know some of you guys have your opinions on Niantic and, you know, the fact that they kind of have been increasing the tickets and all that stuff. But trust me, it could be a lot worse, and so we'll have to wait and see what happens there. The main thing to focus on in the short term, though, is going to be the Unova Tour, and let's just have a good time. Let's try to ignore all the speculation rumors of Pokemon Go being potentially sold off, and of course, if you guys want to check out some more content in the meantime to get yourself ready, then I'm going to recommend these 2 videos right here.